We continue now at the top of Daf Chaf Hey Amid Beis in Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 25b. The Gemara here continues a brisa. Rabbi Eliezer says that the world liachsadra hu dom, it's similar to an achsadra. That's like a partially enclosed veranda. V'ruach tzefonis eina misuveves. The northern side is not enclosed. V'kevon shehigia chama etzel keren ma'aravis tzefonis. When the sun reaches the northwest corner, nechfefes v'ola lamala min harakia. It bends and it goes above the rakia. That's how it goes back to rise the next morning. For Rabbi Yoshua Omer, Rabbi Yoshua says olam lekubahu doma. The world is similar to a tent. It's totally enclosed. V'ruach tzefonis misoveves. The northern side is also enclosed. V'kevon shachama magas lekeren ma'aravis tzefonis. And when the sun reaches the northwest corner, makefes v'chozeres achore kippah. It circles and goes back behind the dome. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, and this is a pasuk in Koheles, holech el daram v'sovev el tzafon v'gomer. It says it walks along the south, but it's sovev, it goes around by the north. And we understand that to mean holech el daram b'yom. Holech is the term that's used during the daytime. That's on the southern side. That's when the sun is visible. V'sovev el tzafon b'layla. And the word sovev, that's used when it's not visible. That's in the northern side. That's what happens at night. Sovev, holech haruach v'al sevivosav shav haruach. Round and round goes the wind, and the wind returns upon its circuits. Elu panei mizrach u'panei ma'ariv. That part of the pasuk refers to the east and the west. Shapa'amim misavavosan. Sometimes in that area it's misavavosan, meaning it's not visible. Upa'amim mahalchosan. Sometimes it walks in that area, meaning to say that it is visible. And Rashi explains, Rabbi Eliezer said that the world is le'achsadra. It's similar to an achsadra, partially enclosed veranda. She'ein ladofen revius, that it doesn't have a fourth wall. Eina misoveves b'mechitz. Again, the north side is not surrounded by a wall. Lamala min harakia. So then when the sun sets, it goes above the rakia. U'mahaleches es ruach tzafon begago shel rakia. It goes along the northern side on the roof of the rakia, so to speak. And then we have the opinion of Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Yoshua says, Lekuba oel shekulo mukaf. According to Rabbi Yoshua, the world is like a tent that's totally enclosed. And Rabbi Yoshua continues, Lekaren ma'aravis sfonis. When the sun gets to the northwest corner, balayla at night, shacham aliolam haleches ruach tzefonis balayla. Because the sun is always going along the northern side at night. Umin hamayrev hipona l'tzafon. From the west, it goes towards the north. Shekachi lucha min hamizrach l'daram, min hadaram l'mayrev, umin mayrev l'tzafon. Because the way the sun goes is it goes from east to south, from south to west, and then from west to north. And Rashi continues, Rabbi Yoshua says further, u'mechazeres achore kippah. It returns behind the dome, derech alon, through a kind of a window. And the pasuk says, holech el darom, it's holech by the south, hekef hayom karo hiluch. The point over here is that during the day, what the sun does is called a hiluch, shu besoch hacholol, because there it's within the cholol, meaning to say, it's visible to us. Ves hekef halayla, and the hekef at night, where it goes at night, karo sivav. That's referred to as sivav, shu makif b'chutz, because it's going on the outside, where it's not visible to us. Uviyom liolam haleches b'darim. Now, during the daytime, it's always in the south. Afilu biyom katzer, even in a very short day of the winter, it's going to be in the south. It's not going to go less than in the southern side. V'sovev el tzafon, and then it's sovev in the north, balayla at night. Af balayla ketzara shel tekuvas tammuz, meaning even, let's say, in the summertime, when the night is very short, eino sovev pachas meruach tzafonis. It's certainly going to at least be in the north side, but when it comes to the east and the west, it really depends on the length of the day. Pa'amim mahalchasan, sometimes it's mahalchasan, meaning sometimes it's visible. B'yom aruch shel tekuvas tammuz, meaning in the long days of the summer, sheyotza bekeren tzvonis mizrachas, it comes out in the northeast. V'shokas bekeren ma'aravis tzvonis, and then it sets in the northwest, so it's going to be in the east and the west, it's going to be visible. But pa'amim sovevasan, sometimes it's sovev, meaning sometimes you can't see it. B'yom katzer, meaning on the short day of the winter, shehi yotza bekeren mizrachas dromis, then already it's coming out in the southeast. V'shokas bekeren ma'aravis dromis, and it is setting in the southwest. U'mahalechas balayla gimel ruchos, and so then at night it's going to end up really being in three different sides. And the Brisa continues, Hu haya omer, he would say, and the Gemara notes, Asan Rabbi Eliezer, this he over here, the person we're referencing is actually Rabbi Eliezer. As Rashi says, Asan Rabbi Eliezer shamar la'achsadra doma. We're now bringing psukim that prove that it's more like an achsadra, that it's like a partially enclosed area. And so he used to say that the pasuk says, this is a pasuk in Eov, min hacheder tavo sufa, out of the chamber comes the storm, zu ruach deromis, this refers to the southern side. Umimezarim, and from the dispersed parts, kara, that's where the cold comes from. The point over here is that the south side, that's enclosed, that's like the cheder, but the north side, that's mizarim, that's the part that's dispersed, that's open. Zuruach tzefonis, that's the northern side which is open, which is why the cold comes from there. And the pasuk continues, Minishmas kel, by the breath of God, Yiten Korach, that's where the ice is given. Zu ruach ma'aravis, that refers to the west side. And finally the pasuk says, V'rochav mayim b'mutzak, and the breadth of the waters, it becomes narrowed. Zu ruach mizrachis, this refers to the eastern side. This refers to where the rain comes from. And the Gemara says, V'amar mar, but didn't the master say, Ruach duromis ma'al revivim u'megadela seisavim, that it's the southern side that brings up the showers and causes the herbs to grow, meaning to say here it sounds like the southern side brings the rain, whereas we just said above that V'rochav mayim b'mutzak, that it's the eastern side. And the Gemara says, Lokash, it's not difficult. Hada asya mitra b'nichus, in one case we're talking where the rain falls pleasantly, and habish vichus, in the other case we're talking about a downpour. And Rashi explains, V'amid ruach deromis ma'al revivim, didn't we say that it's the southern side that brings the showers? V'kanata omer ruach mizrachis mevia mayim, here we're saying it's the eastern side that brings the water. And the Gemara answered, Hada asya mitra b'nichusa, bamin hadarim, from the south it comes pleasantly. V'chi asya b'shvichusa, when it comes in a downpour, bamin hamizrach, that's coming from the east. Kedechsiv mayim b'mutzak, as the pasuk indicates when it says mayim b'mutzak. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Chisda says, Mai dechsiv, what does it mean when it's written in the pasuk? This is a pasuk in Eov. Mitzafon zohav yesef, from the north comes the gold. Zu ruach tzefonis, this refers to the northern wind. Shemazeles es hazov, which devalues the gold because there's a scarcity of food and therefore the prices go up. V'cheinu omer, and similarly it says, this is the pasuk in Yeshayahu, we quoted from the previous Amud, the pasuk says, Hazolim zohav mikis, you who lavish gold out of the bag. And again, the word hazolim is similar to the word shemazeles, meaning shemazeles es hazov, that it devalues the gold. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rafram bar Papa, Amar Rav Chisda, Rafram bar Papa says that Rav Chisda says, Miyom shechara Beis HaMikdash, from the day the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Lo hugsham ruach duromis, the southern wind did not bring rain, shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Vayigzor al yamin v'roev, this is the pasuk in Yeshayahu, it says he made a gzeira on the right, and there was famine, as we'll see in a moment. The right refers to the south, the southern wind. Vayochal al smol v'lo saveyu, he ate on the left, and they were not satisfied. Uchsiv, and it's written, and this is a pasuk in Tehillim that shows that the right refers to the south. It says Safon v'yamin, it says north and right, therefore it sounds like right is the south. Atav v'rasam, the north and the right, you have created them. And the Gemara continues, V'yamar Rafram bar Papa, Amar Rav Chisda, and Rafram bar Papa says that Rav Chisda says, Miyom shechara Beis HaMikdash, from the day the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, En hagashamim yordan me'otzar tov, the rain does not come from the good storehouse. Shenemar, as it says, Yiftach Hashem lecha es otzaro hatov, it says Hashem will open the good storehouse. Bizman sheYisrael osin ritzono shel makom, what it means is, at a time when Klal Yisrael is doing the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yisrael shruyin al admosam, and Klal Yisrael is settled on their land. Geshamim yordan me'otzar tov, that's when the rain comes down from the good storehouse. Bizman she'ein Yisrael shruyin al admosam, but at times when Klal Yisrael is not on their land, ein geshamim yordan me'otzar tov, then the rain does not come down from the good storehouse. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak says, Harotza sheyachkim yadrim, if a person wants to become wise, he should face the south. V'sheyasher, if he wants to become wealthy, yatzvin, he should face the north. V'simonech, and the mnemonic, to remember that shulchan b'safan, the shulchan was in the north. The shulchan represents wealth. Menorah b'dorum, and the menorah was in the south, and the menorah represents wisdom. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says, Liolam yadrim, the person should always face the south. Shemitoch shemischake misasher, because if a person is wise, he'll also be wealthy. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Orech yomim bimina b'smola osha v'chavod, it says that you're going to have length of days at the right, and at the left is going to be wealth and is going to be honor. And Rashi explains, Yadrim b'tfilaso yachzer panav l'darim, it's talking about here during davening, you should turn towards the south. And Rashi continues, V'simonech, and the mnemonic shlo tachlif, not to mix it up, is again the idea that shulchan is b'tzafon and menorah is b'darom. And the Gemara then went on to bring Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, who says a person should always turn to the south to get wisdom, because the wisdom will bring wealth. And the Gemara quoted this pasuk of Orech Yamim Bimina B'smola Osha V'chavod, Shenamar Orech Yamim. Rabbeinu Gershom says, what's the point of bringing this pasuk? Haikra lo asi lashmi'inan. This pasuk is being brought only to teach Ela de Torah Shi Chachma, that Torah, which is wisdom, Yesh Bonami Osha V'chavod, also has with it wealth and honor. That's the point of bringing this pasuk, that Torah includes wealth and honor as well. But the Gemara continues, how can it be that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says you should face south when you're davening? For Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Amar Shechina b'Mayra, but Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is the one that said the Shechina is in the west. And the Gemara answers to that, the Mitzadid at Studi, you just turn a little bit towards the south. Rashi says the Mitzadid at Studi Ma'at L'tzad Darm, you're not fully facing south, just a little bit tilted towards the south. And the Gemara continues, Amar le Rabbi Chanina le Rav Ashi. Rabbi Chanina said to Rav Ashi, Kego natun de yasvisu b'tzvona de Eretz Yisrael, like you, who are in the north of Eretz Yisrael, adrimu adruma, you should face towards the south. Rashi says, adrimu shetiyuponim letzad Yerushalayim. He's saying that you should face Yerushalayim, mishum dechsiv, because it's written in the pasuk, v'ispalu eilecha derech artzim, that they should daven towards you, towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Gemara continues, u'manolan de Bava letzvona de Eretz Yisrael. Kaima, how do we know that Bavel is north of Eretz Yisrael, dechsiv, as it's written in the pasuk, mitzafon tiftach hara, from the north will come the evil, al kol yoshvei oretz, on all who are settled in the land. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Marchikin es ha-mishra min ha-york v'chulu, and the Mishnah went on to say there's a machlokus whether or not the person has to distance his mustard from the other person's bees. And the Gemara says, Tana was taught, Rabbi Yossi mater b'chardlo, Rabbi Yossi says it's mutter by mustard, sheyachal lomar lo, because he can say to him, Ad sha'ata omer li harchik chardolcha min devorai, instead of telling me, distance your mustard from my bees, I can say the other way around, harchik devorcha min chardiloi, you should distance your bees from my mustard, shabos va'ochlos legluge chardiloi, because they're coming and eating my mustard plant. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Marchikin es ha'ilan min habor esrim v'chamei shama. A person has to distance his tree from his neighbor's bore, from his neighbor's cistern, 25 amos, v'choravu v'shigma, by the carob tree and by the sycamore tree, chamisha am, you have to distance 50 amos because there's more roots, bein milmala, bein min hatzad. It doesn't matter if they're at different elevations, it doesn't matter if it's min hatzad, it's at the same elevation, it still has to be distanced. Im habor kadma, now if the boar came first, so then kotzitz v'nos and damim, so then the owner of the tree does have to cut down his tree, and the owner of the boar will pay him, he'll compensate him for the value of the tree. Vim ilan kadam, however, if the tree was there first, so then the owner of the tree has certain rights, so then lo yakutz, then he doesn't have to cut down the tree. Safek zeh kadam v'safek zeh kadam, if we don't know which one was first, lo yakutz, he doesn't have to cut down the tree. Rabbi Yossi says, Afal bi shabor kodem is ilan, even though the boar was there before the tree, lo yakutz, still the owner of the tree does not have to cut it down, shezeh chofer b'soch shelo, because this one can dig in his own property, v'zeh notaya b'soch shelo, and the other one can plant in his own property. And the Gemara says, Tana was taught, Bein shabor lamata v'ilan lamala, whether the boar is below and the ilan is above, meaning in terms of elevation. Bein shabor lamala v'ilan lamata, whether the boar is above and the tree is below, in terms of elevation. In both situations, you have to distance the ilan from the boar. And the Gemara says, Bishlama bor lamata v'ilan lamala. I understand if the boar is below and the tree is at a higher elevation, so the roots are obviously going to go downward. So ka'azlan sharashin maski lo labor. I understand that the roots are going to go down and damage the pit. It makes sense they have to be distanced from one another. You have to distance the tree from the boar. Elabor lamala v'ilan lamata. But if the boar is above and the tree is below, and now the roots are going even lower, so why? What's the purpose of the distance? No damage is going to happen to the boar. And the Gemara explains, Amar Rabbi Chaga b'shem Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Chaga says in the name of Rabbi Yossi, Memnei shemachlidin es hakarka, because it causes holes in the land, umalkin karkiyasa shel bor, and that damages the earth of the boar. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Rabbi Yossi says, Afal pisha bor kodem es le'ilon, even though the boar is there before the tree, lo yakutz, he still doesn't have to cut down the tree. Shezeh chover b'soch shelo, v'zeh noteya b'soch shelo, because this one, he can dig in his own property, and the other one can plant in his own property. And the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yehuda Mar Shmuel, Rav Yehuda says that Shmuel says, Halacha, ke Rav Yossi, the halacha is like Rav Yossi. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Ashi says, Ki avon bei Rav Kahana, when I was by Rav Kahana, Havamrinan, they said, Modi Rav Yossi, the Rav Yossi would admit, Begiri Didei, let's say it's a cause of an immediate kind of damage, then already Rav Yossi would admit that you're not allowed to cause that damage just because you're doing it in your own property. And Rashi explains, Halacha ke Rav Yossi, the halacha is like Rav Yossi, Shal ha-nizik laharchik es atzmo, that in general it's the nizik that has to distance himself from the damage. It's not the responsibility of the mazik, the one who's doing the damage. And then the Gemara said that Rav Yossi would admit, begiri delay. Giri delay means, heicha demati lehazeka mitoch yadav shal mazik, if the damage comes right directly from the hands of the mazik. Ki ahida amrina b'habayis v'ali, it's like the case we have in Bab Metzia, hanu beitrei chadayri loy v'chadayri tasoy. There was a case where you have two people, one lives in the upper floor, one lives in the lower floor, ifchis ma'aziva, and so then the ma'aziva, the plaster, which is supposed to protect, it deteriorated, v'cholei mes demoshe yodei nofli oled tasoy. Every time that the person on the upper floor washed his hand, it fell to the lower floor, so it's falling directly from his hand right to the person who lives below. Kari like giri delay, that's called giri delay. Now let's say there would be an interruption, it wouldn't fall immediately, there would be some kind of delay. Lo kari like giri delay, that would not be called giri delay. And the Gemara continues, Papi Yonah ani vehesher have. Papi Yonah was somebody who originally was poor and then he became wealthy. Bona afadna, he built a mansion. Havahana chatsuri b'shivavuse, there were those who were pressing sesame seeds to make oil. They were doing it in his neighborhood near him. Daiki shumshmi, when they were pressing these seeds, havanaidi afadne, so his whole mansion would shake. Also, Lakami de Ravashi, so he came before Ravashi to complain. Amar Lei said to him, Ki avon bei Rav Kahana, when we were by Rav Kahana, Havamrinon Modi Rabbi Yossi, Begiri delay. He said that Rabbi Yossi would admit by Giri delay. This is a situation of Giri delay. It's direct, immediate damage. Rashi says, Begiri delay v'hachanami miyadeim hubalo. It's coming from their hands to him, a direct damage. Shemikoach makoseim humarad, because of the fact that they're beating it, that causes the house to shake. And the Gemara continues, V'kama, now how much? Rashi says, V'kama tonud afadna debayar chuke. How much does the mansion have to shake that that's considered like a damage, that the person has to distance himself? And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Chavav Amud Aleph.